those attending this meeting, please listen to the following instructions in case of an emergency. First, please take a moment to note where your exits are. If an emergency arises that prompts us to evacuate, please exit this room in a quick and orderly manner through one of the two doors to your right, and then proceed to the nearest stairwell, directions to which are indicated by the exit signs. Once you exit the building, we ask that you safely cross Granville Street, which is the street that runs beside our building, to our parking lot to be safely away from the building. Our staff will provide additional directions and assistance as needed. In the case of a tornado warning, please exit this room into the hallway, where we will all remain until it is safe to exit. In any event of an active shooter in the building, if there is an accessible escape path, please run and try to evacuate the premises. If you can't evacuate, find a place to hide where you are less likely to be found, and lock any doors that you can. And as a last resort, and only if your life is in imminent danger, please fight. Our staff will provide additional direction and assistance on what to do. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Bass. Ms. Harris, would you please offer prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, we do thank you again for another day of life, health, and strength. Lord, we ask that you bless everyone that is here, those who might be on the way. Lord, we ask that you give us mercy, show us grace as we make decisions concerning the citizens of Edgecombe County. In this, your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, if we could, I would suggest that we move item 13, which is the Data Center Advisory Group report, up on the agenda between items 1 and 2, right behind the public hearing. Also, I would request if you would consider adding one additional budget amendment. You have a copy of it at your seat.
Do I hear no objections? Hearing no objections, so done. At this time, I'd like to call the public hearing to order to consider approval of proposed text amendment to the county's UDO related to solar farms and zoning for Speed Community. The public hearing is called to order. Mr. Peters, would you please read the public notice?
Yes, sir. Public notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Board of Commissioners of Edgecombe County on Monday, June 22nd, 2026 at 6:00 p.m. in the Jonathan Felton Commissioners Room, second floor, County Administrative Building, 201 St. Andrews Street, Tarboro, North Carolina, to consider an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance, case number UDOTA 7-26. The proposed text amendment would provide adjustments to applicable sections of the Edgecombe County Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, as it relates to solar energy systems, as well as add language that will amend the county zoning map to apply county zoning districts and regulations to the area that is currently in the town of Speed zoning jurisdiction. Copies of the proposed amendments are available for public inspection during business hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the County Planning Office, Room 205, County Administrative Building, 201 St. Andrews Street, Tarboro, North Carolina. All parties and all interested residents are invited and urged to be present and make their views known. This is the 11th day of June, 2026, by order of the Board of Commissioners of Edgecombe County, signed by Tammy Faison, clerk to the board.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call forward Mr. Durbin Spell, our Director of Planning and Development, and he will walk us through these proposed text amendments.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. So this is a county staff initiated UDO text amendment to revise the UDO language regarding solar energy systems and to add provisions governing the application of county-based zoning districts, regulations, and the Speed Community Overlay District to parcels currently located within the town of Speed zoning jurisdiction. The planning board voted unanimously to forward the UDO text amendment request to the Board of County Commissioners with a favorable recommendation. After the conclusion of a legislative public hearing, the Board of Commissioners shall decide the application in accordance with the standards of section 2.3.24.f review criteria. The decision shall be one of the following: approval of the application, denial of the application, approval of the revised application, or remand the application to the planning board for further consideration. The decision shall be based on legislative discretion of the Board of Commissioners, taking into consideration the recommendation of the planning board and the standards of section 2.3.24.f review criteria. In making this decision, The Board of Commissioners shall adopt a written statement of reasonableness and consistency with the county's adopted policy guidance in accordance to Section 160D-605 of the North Carolina General Statutes. Adoption of this text amendment will amend the county zoning map by extending county zoning districts, regulations, and the Speed Community Overlay District to parcels currently within the town of Speed's zoning jurisdiction, including parcels located within both the town limits and the extraterritorial jurisdiction, effective July 1st, 2026. The Board of Commissioners will need to adopt the resolution of intent for this action. I present Mr. Chad Meadows with Code Right Planners to make our presentation tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Good evening.
Commission members, I'm Chad Meadows. Okay, thank you for the chance to be here. I am going to take about 20 minutes and walk you through the basics of this text amendment. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have as we go along. All right, very good. This is UDO TA 7126. This is the 7th amendment to the county's UDO since its adoption on November 1st of 2021. Again, there's two sets of changes here. One is consideration of adoption of the solar farm standards, something that the county's been working on for quite some time. And then also the speed community overlay, the suggestion that the consulting team and staff have put together with respect to what to do about the speed community. We'll start with the solar farm material. There we go. I'll get it, guys. We've been working on this for around a year. We've had 3 meetings with the solar farm standards. We've had 3 meetings with the steering committee, 1 meeting with the planning board, and this is our 3rd meeting with the elected officials. And this is your public hearing. There's 8 sections to the solar farm standards. We're entitling this Solar Energy Systems. It's section 4398 of your UDO. I'll talk very, very quickly about these. Existing level 1 systems, these are accessories, solar panels that you might have on your house or your business. These are not industrial level facilities. They remain unchanged, okay? The current UDO has in it already regulations for levels 2 and 3 systems. Those existing systems are grandfathered under the existing regulation. However, should there be an expansion to one of these existing level 2 or level 3 systems, okay, then these expansions may be subject to some of the new UDO provisions. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. Finally, there's the level 4 facility. The level 4 is the new solar system, a solar facility that might include batteries, a battery sort of generation, or its own electrical generation aspect. And these are the facilities that the new standards are drafted primarily for. Okay, a level 4 system. This is a solar farm of 2 megawatts or more of any size, okay? It does include a dedicated electrical substation or a battery-based storage for storage of the electricity that's generated by the solar farm. These facilities are limited to the non-residential lots within non-residential districts here in Edgecombe County, and requires the approval of a conditional rezoning and a development agreement. This is done to provide the county, both your planning board and this body, with maximum discretion, maximum opportunity for review, maximum opportunity for negotiation and discussion with an applicant in pursuit of a solar farm facility that gives you the maximum benefits to be discussed during the process. Here we go. Where are these things allowed? Again, the existing level 2 and 3 systems are carried forward. They are permitted, whether by special use permit or by right, in all of the districts in the county. One issue that we've gotten, and I know that you guys are aware of this, was Session Law 2024-57, the downzoning bill. The downzoning bill bars the county and any other local government in North Carolina from reducing the range of allowable uses in your regulations without first getting consent. Okay? Therefore, and as a result of the downzoning bill, your level 2 and level 3 standards are carried forward. Now, level 4 is a new kind of a use type, and therefore we have freedom, more ability to write new regulations for the level 4s. As I mentioned before, a level 4 facility would be permissible through the establishment of a conditional zoning district in one of the county's business or industrial districts or in the planned development district. All right, 12 sets of standards. These are on pages 288 through 296. There's a set of size limitations. Your type 2s are smaller than 10 acres. Your type 3s go up to 100 acres in size. No limits on the 4s. There's some standards for battery storage systems, mostly dealing with fire codes and noise limitations. Specifically, any battery facility could not generate more than 45 decibels of sound after 7 p.m. There are some new setbacks from residential districts. Your level 4s need to be at least 300 feet from a residential district. I'll talk more about screening in a moment. Any stormwater that comes off of these facilities has got to be the same as pre-construction stormwater, and there are requirements for fences and maintenance. Where is the thing that there we go. Is it behind me? Is it in front of me? Where is the unit that controls this? Because
It might be here.
I'm pointing to it. I need to definitely go back. There we go. Thank you. That's the one. Thank you very much. This is perimeter screening. Quite simply, these facilities are required to have a 35-foot wide buffer around them. That buffer has 3 rows of vegetation. There are 2 rows of evergreen shrubs that are on either side of a row of canopy trees, with some separation standards between the trees, some separation standards between the shrubs, and a minimum distance from the fence, which must surround the facility. This perimeter screening is required whether there are existing trees in the area or not. So the intention here is that these facilities will be thoroughly screened all the way around, all the time. Thank you. One of the biggest things that came up during discussion was the fact that the existing facilities in the county are not maintaining the screening that is necessary, and this is causing problems with the people who live around them. And therefore, these standards seek to have annual inspection and recertification. The primary purpose is to make sure that these solar farms are being conducted in accordance with the standards. There's an annual permit renewal that is necessary. Applicants will be required to have a third party prepare a site inspection, submit that to staff for review. If the inspection is approved, then the annual permit will be issued and the facility may continue. If the site inspection fails, the applicant will be told what needs to be fixed. They'll be given a set time to fix it. And if they fail to do so, then their permit will not be renewed. Operation of one of these facilities without a permit is a violation of the UDO and would then trigger remedies in accordance with your UDO. Now, we've included in the standards an opportunity for the county to require an additional inspection, if necessary, following receipt of a signed complaint from somebody here in the county. So these additional requests aren't spurious. They're not intended to be punitive, but we are trying to make sure that these operators follow the rules and bring their systems, into compliance with the standards and that they maintain them. So this is a comprehensive approach to our data center issues. We've incorporated more screening, more site inspection. We've incorporated new standards that deal with, these larger facilities that have the batteries, mandatory fences, greater screening, etc. So a lot of material that's embedded in these standards. We've had a lot of discussion with the solar community, with the people who live here in the county, a lot of discussion with staff. And this is the set of provisions that we would suggest you guys consider as you go forward. Okay?
Let me stop you right there. That would not be for those that would be for the new?
Correct.
Okay.
Unless your existing level 2 facilities want to enlarge. If they want to grow in size, then there are some standards that would apply to them, and they would be treated in terms of these new screening standards, these new inspection provisions. Okay?
Right. Go ahead.
Right. From here, we'll talk about the speed community. This is a zoning map copy of what the zoning map might look like in the speed area. Just to orient you, the red line around the outside is speed's current extraterritorial jurisdictional boundary. Go ahead. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So the dissolution of the town requires the county to extend your UDO, the county's UDO, to the former town's planning area. What's different now, I mentioned a minute ago, the downzoning bill. Edgecombe County is the first community in North Carolina to deal with a dissolution after the downzoning bill has been put into place. There have been other instances of this, but in all of those other instances, local governments were simply able to pick up their current regulation and place it on the ground, right? Downzoning bill stops us from doing that. We can't lower densities, we can't reduce the range of allowable uses, and we can't create nonconformities on non-residential districts without getting consent first. So we now have an expectation by the state for Edgecombe County to control planning and development, but we have these other limitations on your authority in the form of the downzoning bill. So we've had to structure this speed community overlay district to address those. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but I will try to hit the high points. Next slide. One of the things that happened very early on was that your staff spent some time developing a series of tables that compare the county's UDO with speed zoning ordinance. And our focus was on two things. One, uses. What are the range of allowable uses that speed allows today? And two, what are the dimensional standards? The densities and the setbacks, okay? Because those are the things that are controlled by the downzoning bill. We needed to understand what are the ramifications for adopting new regulations for this area. Next slide. So our big ticket issues to address, obviously, the rules for existing development within the town limits, the transition into county districts, and any differences that might exist between those two in terms of uses, dimensional standards, and how do we address changes to existing development within the town of Speed as it existed. Next slide. Existing development. Existing development can stay. It can be replaced in kind forever. This change has no impact on existing development in Speed. Any development that exists at the time of the effectiveness of this regulation will permit that existing development to continue unencumbered, unimpeded, even if it was non-conforming under Speed zoning ordinance. Okay, so you have taken a very careful, thoughtful, methodological approach to this. Now, if there is a change to this existing development, or if there is vacant land in what was the town of Speed, those changes, that development of that vacant land will be subject to the county's Unified Development Ordinance. Why? Because those are the rules that are in place that the General Assembly's insisted be on the ground. Okay, so important to understand that. Existing development may continue without any issues at all. If there are changes, then changes need to come into compliance with the county's UDO. Now, these documents are fairly similar, but there are some differences. Okay, and I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about some of those differences and how we've dealt with that, okay? Next slide. This is a table that shows the comparison, a side-by-side comparison of the zoning districts that are in the county's UDO. Those are the ones that are on the right-hand side, and the zoning districts that were in the town of Speed. And what's interesting to note is that there is a lot of similarity, not just in the district names, but also how these districts are configured. And that is happy news, because that means that the kinds of translations and transitional aspects that we need to address are not that significant. There are a few, but generally speaking, they are fairly simple, which is great. Let's go on to the next slide. There are 16 uses that are currently permitted in the town of Speed that are not permitted within the county's UDO right now. In the corresponding zoning districts in the county's UDO, it does not permit these 16 uses. How do we solve that? What is the solution? We came up with the Speed Community Overlay. Property that is inside the Speed Community Overlay will be allowed to have any of these 16 uses in the corresponding zoning districts where shown on this table. Why did we do that? Because the downzoning bill does not permit us to reduce the range of allowable uses without getting consent first. So, in the Speed Community Overlay, those zoning districts can have those uses. Outside of the Speed Community Overlay, those zoning districts do not permit those uses. Okay, so I want to be sure that everybody's clear on that. We did not take away uses that are currently allowed in Speed. The process is the same. These parcels that are inside this Speed Community Overlay will continue to have access to these use types. But lands outside of the Speed Community Overlay and zoned, whether you're AR30 or R20 or R10 or what have you, will not have access to those use types. Okay, does everybody understand that distinction? Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now, the dimensional standards are similar between the two codes, but they're not always identical. And remember, the downzoning bill says we can't lower development potential. We can't create non-conforming development. We can't lower densities. So the rule that we followed is as follows. In cases where the county's UDO was more permissive than the speed ordinance, where setbacks in the county's ordinance were smaller, or densities in the county's ordinance were higher, right? There was more development potential in the county's ordinance. Speed was given that additional development potential. They stood to gain. Their setbacks were smaller. Their densities were increased. Okay, does that make sense? In some cases, some of Speed's dimensional standards, whether they were setbacks or densities, were more permissive than the county's. We could not lower those countywide. What we can do is allow within that Speed Community Overlay boundary those differential dimensional standards. Okay, so those properties that are currently in Speed will be able to continue to enjoy the dimensional standards that they had before, but that's only within the Speed Overlay. Okay, so this is how we've threaded the needle. Generally speaking, they've gotten to keep all of their development potential, and we've drawn a ring around it and said within this ring, that existing development potential will continue. Outside of the ring, those lands never had that additional development potential, and they're not going to get it now. Okay, does that make sense? Great. A couple more things to comment about. Let's talk about changes to existing development. If you could go forward one slide. Thank you. So, I mentioned at the head of the conversation that no existing development in Speed will be negatively impacted by this, but if you make changes to existing development, those changes need to come into compliance with the UDO. Okay, so that might mean you want to change your principal use type, or you want to make your building bigger, or you want to make some other change on your site. If that happens, you'll be expected to come into compliance with the county's UDO standards, okay? Which is only fair. Now, in some instances, there is a possibility that some of those sites won't be able to come into the county's compliance. Like when? Maybe the lot of record is smaller than the lot dimensional standard in the rest of the county. Or maybe the setbacks, the buildings have been positioned in ways that can't meet the county's setback requirements. We have built in 3 safety valves into the UDO to address that situation. Okay, the first of those is obviously the variance procedure, the same thing that's used here in Edgecombe County today. If you've got an existing lot of record that's smaller than the districts where it's located, you can go apply to the Board of Adjustment for a variance to do your whatever development you would like to do. That process continues and it's applied in the town of Speed. If you can't do that or you don't want to do that, then you can seek a conditional rezoning. You can come before the Planning Board and the Board of County Commissioners and discuss how and why you need to deviate from the standards and what mitigation you might propose as part of that. Okay, that's very commonplace, happens today. I don't think that you guys use conditional zoning today as much as you will in the future, but the time of conditional zoning is coming. If the variance option, isn't desirable or won't work, if the conditional rezoning option isn't desirable or won't work, then you've got a third option. And the third option is to request the ability to become non-conforming. You file an application for a non-conforming authorization. And that process works a little bit like this. Next slide. A non-conforming authorization is permission to become non-conforming. Okay, remember the downzoning bill. Can't create a non-conformity without consent first. So there has to be a step in the process where an owner gives consent to become non-conforming. Okay, this non-conforming authorization includes that as part of the process. There is also a consideration by this body in terms of whether or not the proposal that's on the table that didn't get a variance, that didn't get a conditional zoning, won't negatively impact the surroundings, is configured in a way to have the least impactful sort of change on adjacent development, that it's the minimum necessary, and so forth. So we've got a series of criteria that are set down in these standards. I will tell you that this does seem complicated. It is also new. Okay, you are the second government in North Carolina to adopt a non-conforming authorization procedure. Mills River was the first, and they adopted theirs on the 11th of June. So you're 16 days behind them. This has not been litigated, and this is something that we'll see continuing as we go forward here in North Carolina, but you guys are among the first. This non-conforming authorization is a safety valve provision for people who can't get a variance approval or who won't ask for a variance approval and don't want to do a conditional rezoning. There's a third avenue for them. And again, this all flows directly based on applicants who want to change their property after the effective date. They need to come into compliance. If they can't, here's a variety of options that allow you some flexibility. Okay, so that's the name of the game here. Next slide. As was mentioned earlier, Planning Board considered these 2 sets of changes, the solar farms and the speed community overlay text amendments on the 18th of May and recommended approval. Your next steps are to have public comment and discussion, vote on this matter, and I am here to answer any questions that you have now or any questions that come up after you've heard from the public.
Any questions from the board? If not, thank you, Mr. Meadows. I'm quite sure there'll be some questions we need. Okay. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, those of you that have signed up for public comments, when the clerk calls your name, please come forward and state your name and address for the public record. Madam Clerk.
Vernell Jordan.
Good evening, Chairman Wiggins and members of the board. My name is Vernell Jordan, and I reside at 1737 McNair Road, However, I own property in Speed. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board tonight. I also want to express my gratitude for the work you're doing. First, I would like to give honor to God who has carried us through every season and continue to guide us through this one as well. I understand the necessity of transitioning Speed into county oversight. I understand that. As the town of Speed gets ready to dissolve, many residents are unaware about services, safety, and what everyday life will be like after June 30th. After Speed dissolves, we will look to the county for guidance on what happens next. You, the Board of Commissioners, are responsible for setting the rules that will impact our community. I'm speaking tonight because I care about public safety and the financial burden of keeping our streetlights on in Speed. Under the current transition framework, individual property owners are expected to pay for the streetlights. Residents simply cannot afford to cover the cost of private streetlights themselves. If the lights go dark because the neighbors are unable to cover this unexpected expense, it will create an immediate and serious public safety risk. Dark streets attracts crime, increase the risk of property damage, and put residents in danger. When a town dissolves, the one thing that should never be compromised is public safety. Streetlights are not a luxury. They are vital for protection. They provide visibility and can mean the difference between a safe walk home and a dangerous one. We have seniors using cane, children waiting for school buses in the dark, and families returning home late on unlit roads. Public safety is a basic government responsibility. While some reports indicate that the town's remaining $40-some thousand in cash assets may temporarily cover streetlight bills, a temporary solution is not enough. We need a permanent plan. I respectfully ask the board to develop a long-term, county-funded plan to maintain Speed streetlights. Edgecombe County will be absorbing Speed's future tax revenues, so it is only fair that the county permanently assumes the utility agreement with the power company. Treating the streetlights as a public county infrastructure will ensure that our streets remain well lit and our community stays safe. Thank you for your time, and may God guide every decision you make for this county and for the people who call it home. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that addressed? All right. Is that addressed in this agreement?
No, sir, we don't get into those specifics, but the situation is the lights that she speaks of, and we've heard this concern before and certainly understand that concern. These are lights that are in public right-of-ways that the town of Speed has been paying the cost of that. As you probably know, the county does not cover any lighting outside of the county's own property. So we are having some ongoing conversation about what an option might be for that, but certainly understand that concern, and we'll be happy to bring back some more information.
I think it makes sense in terms of some type of plan to go forward so that it could happen. I understand what you're saying. We don't do that for other communities, but it might be a way for some type of fee. I don't know what the cost of it is. Okay, but look at that and prepare some kind of plan for this board.
Will do. Yes, sir.
Okay.
That was gonna be my question. Have you looked at the cost and why that wasn't part of the original conversation?
Oh, it has been a part of the conversation. It has been to what we've discussed up to this point.
And I can understand the board's concern. We don't do this for communities.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you do it for one, you got to do it for another. But then it's still a plan that the possibilities the county can put together. Okay. We do need to do something with it. I don't know. Do something. Okay. That's the best I can say for that. Okay.
And as she alluded to, one option is that, power providers offer the opportunity for individual property owners to have utility lights at a cost per month is billed. So part of us working through this transition is finding out what that is.
These streetlights are 1 meter. They're on meter. They're on 1 meter.
All of these are paid for by the town. They're in public right of way.
Okay. Okay. It might be some kind of fund out there somewhere. Okay. Okay. Let's look. Next, Madam Clerk.
Bernetta Wood.
They've been paying.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
This is my first time here, so I don't know how everything runs.
Do it the way you think it ought to be done. We'll be all right. Okay.
But I did make my name is Roberto, but as I said before, and I currently live in Durham, and I have a property in Speed.
Mhm.
I made a request to have it changed to residential, but it has been, I don't know if it was rezoned, but I'm hearing that it was B2 and it's going to be B2. So I don't know what the next step is at this point.
Well, Mr. Meadows, Mr. Spells, tell her what, I think the next step is once we get it, you'd have to make that request and then it would have to come into compliance with what our ordinance is. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That is absolutely correct.
Which could be a problem for you. I don't know. Okay.
Anyone who owns property in Edgecombe County has the ability to come before the planning board and this body to request a different zoning district. And that can be a residential district, it could be a conditional district, it could be whatever you'd like to request. And so you'll have that ability, just like you had it under Speed, you'll have it under the county. We encourage you to speak with county staff, the planning staff, to find out the particulars of the process. But the intention is to continue to allow those kinds of requests to go forward under the standards that are in the UDO. And by the way, those standards are set for us by the state. Those are state regulations, not necessarily county regulations.
And Mr. Go ahead. Madam Clerk.
Calvin Wilson speaking on number 13. There's Olga Dickens. She didn't say whether she was speaking or not. Okay, then that's it, sir.
That's it. Okay.
Just want to double check, was Mr. Dickens did want to speak? Oh.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to adjourn the public hearing. And this time, do I have a motion from the board?
So, Mr. Chairman, just to be specific,
Right, we need to, the motion should be,
in your packet, Mr. Spell included proposed application
and
consistency statements and then a resolution regarding the speed overlay district. So let's,
this is application consistent with adopted policy guideline,
yes,
policy
sir.
guidance.
So there are two things, that consistency statement, and then 2 pages behind that, there's a resolution regarding the town of Speed.
Okay, good enough. Okay, right. Okay. Do you see the application, Mr. Please read that, Ms. Do you see it? Go ahead and read that.
I'm referring to.
Consistent with adopted policy
Yes.
guidance. Go ahead and read that.
Read it.
All right.
The Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners conclude that the application as presented is consistent with Edgecombe County's adopted policy guidance as expressed in the 2014-2034 comprehensive plan based on the following reasons. It is consistent with economic development policy number 1, economic development goal. It is consistent with growth management policy number 1, growth and development goal.
Do I need a motion there, Mr.?
Well,
Do I need
if
a?
Mr. Willie doesn't mind continue reading, and then I think you could do it.
And
both
one
as
motion.
or-
Go right ahead. Continue reading, Mr.
Application is reasonable. The Edgecombe County Board of County Commissioners conclude that the application as presented is reasonable and is in the public interest based on the following reasons. One, it enhances economic growth potential of Edgecombe County, promotes orderly growth and development as it relates to solar energy systems and the parcels that were in the town of Speed zoning jurisdiction.
So, Mr. Chairman, there's also that resolution we mentioned and 2 pages behind that. So just to clarify, is the motion and second to approve that consistency statement and the resolution as presented?
That would be the motion, that would be your motion, Mr. Wooten?
That
To-
is,
Go ahead with let's read the resolution too. Go ahead, resolution. Do you see that?
the resolution, okay, yeah.
Let's read the resolution.
Resolution of intent to apply Edgecombe County zoning districts overlay and unified development ordinance in parcels with the former town of Speed zoning jurisdiction. Whereas the town of Speed, which is incorporated in 1901, is located within the Edgecombe County and, according to the 2020 census, has a population of 63 residents. And whereas on October 10th, 2025, the town adopted a resolution of dissolution in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 160A-860 to begin the process of voluntarily dissolving the town. And whereas on April 14, 2026, the town approved a dissolution plan pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 160A-866, which among other items provide for the elimination of the town of Speed zoning districts and regulations within the town limits and extraterritorial jurisdictions. And whereas, in accordance with the memorandum of agreement and understanding by and between the Edgecombe County and the town of Speed, dated June 9th, 2026, Edgecombe County and the town of Speed agreed for Edgecombe County to create a new Speed Community Overlay District for planning and zoning purposes. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners that approval of case number UDOTA 7-26, together with the accompanying statement of consistency, hereby authorize the application of the Edgecombe County zoning districts as shown on the zoning map presented at the public hearing on June 22nd, 2026, including the creation of the Speed Community Overlay District and the application of the land development regulations contained in the Edgecombe County Unified Development Ordinance to all parcels currently located within the town limits and ETJ of the town of Speed. Such applications shall become effective on July 1, 2026.
All in favor of this, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, they are approved. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I will ask, just since we have Mr. Meadows here, are there any questions related to what we just did from anybody out there? Just so we have an understanding in terms of any questions of maybe some of the presentations of anybody in the audience. Hearing none, we'll continue with the meeting. Go ahead, Ms. Evans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. So as you've agreed earlier, we're going to move up agenda item number 13. And I'll be presenting an overview of the report from our data center advisory group. So we'll get that presentation pulled up. You have in your agenda packet the full report. It's in the back, but you have the full report. You'll see I will reference in my presentation pages to that, but you have the full report. And so, first of all, I want to talk about the purpose and mission of the Data Center Advisory Group. We pulled together that group to explore this, this very important, sometimes very complicated and complex topic of data centers. And the overall purpose of the group, as I shared with the group at our very first meeting, the purpose was not to try to convince anybody at that table to feel differently than they already feel, but to simply to gather their feedback, get their questions as best as possible, get answers to their questions, and ultimately pull together a body of information to provide to you so that you can be better informed if such decision comes before you regarding a data center. Want to recognize our data center advisory group members. For those of you that are here in the room, if you don't mind, stand. Of course, Mr. Boswell, you don't have to
Anybody?
stand. I'm
Anybody?
going to call them one at a time so you'll know
Go
who they
ahead,
are.
go ahead.
I want to thank Commissioner Boswell for serving on the advisory group. Also, Jennifer Eason, Miss Amy Robinette, Jim Wren, Janice Bullock, Bronson Williams, David Batts, Renee Anderson, Mr. C.B. Daughtridge, Mr. Reginald Bynum, and Mr. Kevin Wilson. Also, we had county staff members that participated in this, including Ms. Teresa Lewis, our tax administrator, Mike Matthews, assistant county manager, Michael Peters, our county attorney, Mr. Dervin Spell, our director of planning and development, Antoine Brown, emergency services director, Scott Kaiser, director of soil and water conservation, Art Whitehurst, county executive director for USDA Farm Service Administration, Ms. Natalie Best, our deputy county manager. And then we had a group that fell under what we referred to as our subject matter specialists. They included Catherine Grimm, the town of Tarboro planning director, Joseph Bocook, the city of Rocky Mount director of development services, Eddie Stocks, a VP of member industrial development, Edgecombe Martin Electric Membership Cooperative, Mr. Bob Pike, president of Caroline's Gateway Partnership, Sam Watts, a VP and principal geologist of SNME, Katie Zimmerman with Sound Rivers Incorporated, Shelby Ruffner, Genex Power, Amanda James, the water treatment plant superintendent with the City of Rocky Mount Water Quality Services, and Mr. David Payne, the director of intergovernmental affairs and economic development with NCDEQ. I want to thank all of them for their time spent on this. Just our meetings themselves, we spent about 10 hours together over the course of 4 meetings. All of us, most of us, I'm sure, even outside of those meetings, spent a lot more time than that. So I want to thank them for their service. Mr. Chairman, I know that you had mentioned to me that you'd like to give them, the members of the advisory council, the opportunity to make remarks. If you like, I can go ahead and do my presentation.
I want you to do the presentation, and
Yes,
if
sir.
those of you that are here that served on the committee, if you would like to comment on his report, you'll have an opportunity to do such. Okay. Go right ahead.
So the process was, as I'm about to describe, we were very purposeful, staff and I, in planning for this to make sure that we could be as efficient with our time to facilitate the meetings in such a way that we could accomplish the goals of the meeting while also being respectful of people's time. So we had 4 in-person meetings, and we gave a virtual option for folks to participate who was not that easy for them to come to the county building. We started off and developed what we call group agreements. We understand that, this is a very complicated topic and people feel very passionately about it. So we wanted to all agree on these things so that we can make sure that we have well-facilitated meetings. We even gave the group the opportunity to add to this list. I think at our first meeting, they added that last one there to ask folks to limit their comments to 5 minutes.
Did they comply?
They did for the most part, but they all did well, and I think we had very respectful and robust discussion in our meetings. Then we asked the group to give us the questions that they have, and we at least the first 2, maybe the third meeting, they were all given index cards where they could write down their questions. We captured those. Throughout the process, we tried to answer as many of those questions as we could. This is just a screenshot of the first page. You have the full document in your packet. It's 4 or 5 pages of questions. You'll see some we were able to provide answers through the group discussions, some not. Some created other questions, but we went through a process of questions and answers as much as possible. Then we had, I think I'm skipping. Well, it's not, oh, here it is. We got shared language. And so, this matter has some technical terms that we may not use in everyday life. So we generated a list of what we felt like were core technology terms so that when we spoke of a data center, we all knew what that was. If we talked about a hyperscale data center, we know what that was. Again, this is just a screenshot of the first page. It's a few pages to that. We gave the group the opportunity to add to this list. In fact, the last one there on the list, battery energy storage system, was one that was added as part of our discussion. The definition for hyperscale data center, it came up in discussion about, well, what's the threshold? When does it go from a regular data center to a hyperscale? And from the input of the group, that's typically known as one that is 100 megawatts or more. So this was very helpful to our discussions to have that. Again, you have the full list of shared language in your packet. And then we asked them to list what their hopes and fears are, whether it be specifically regarding data centers or more broadly other things related to the county, in some cases more broadly economic development. Again, this is just a snapshot. They gave us a list. We captured these on index cards and we put them on this list. So they listed some of their hopes, as you see, for example, a hope is to bring good paying jobs, as an example you'll see there on the screen. We also captured fears that they have. As one of those up there says that there will be non-reversible environmental damage. So we had some good discussion about what the group's hopes and fears are. Then we talked about values and boundaries. We asked the group to share what priorities and principles should guide decisions about development, not just data centers, but more broadly, even beyond that. You see, we got a lot of feedback on that. Then we asked about what boundaries should we have and what conditions should the county set for acceptable projects, and we got good feedback on that. We had right much discussion, I believe it was maybe in our first two, all of the meetings really, but more so in our first two meetings about permitting, environmental compliance. There was a lot of concern about that. We were fortunate to have a number of people on the advisory group who could lend some expertise to that. And so from that, we created this document. Again, what you see on the screen is just a screenshot of part of the first page just to give you some idea, but the full document is there, and it talks about local, state, and potentially federal permitting requirements. One of the things that we discussed is that some things may apply, some may not. It all depends on the particular project, the particular data center, but you have that full document there in your booklet. And then we asked the group for recommendations. If they wanted to make a recommendation to this board, we gave them the opportunity to list those. We did that in maybe the third meeting, I think. We followed up with it at the fourth meeting. At that fourth meeting, we also gave folks the opportunity to select their priorities by vote. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. And then the final part about this is we created what we call an information library. Throughout the discussion, even though we were asking specific questions like, okay, give us what your questions are and let's try to find answers, or tell us your hopes and fears. We got to gather information about permitting and things like that. We offered to the group, if there's other information, documents that you feel like would be helpful for you all, the board, to have access to, we gave them the opportunity to submit that to us, and we put that in what we call the information library. And you'll see, for example, starting at the top, there's a copy in the information library of our current UDO text amendment as it relates to data centers. There are resolutions in there, as you see, from some of our towns showing their opposition to data centers, some other studies and reports that members of the group shared. All of that is presented. Also, the last one you'll see there on the list, there are links to online articles and documents that were submitted. On the electronic page anyway, you can, on that one page, we have all of those links. You can click on the link and it might go to a report or something that the group or individuals in the group felt like that would be helpful. you have in your packet the full booklet that includes all of those documents that you see there on that list. That's why it's such a thick packet there. The agenda packet, as you have, that includes this report, is already on our website under our agenda packets. After this meeting, I will also post on the homepage of our website specifically this report that you have a copy. So anyone in the public that wants to see it can see it. I want to go back to here and blow it up a little bit there so you can see it more clearly. As I mentioned, we gave the group the opportunity, we gave them an index card and say, if you have a recommendation that you want to share with the board as it relates to this, what would that be? And so we collected those. And then at the last meeting, we gave everybody one of each of the 4 colored dots that you see there. And we said the red is assigned 1 point, green 2, yellow 3, blue 4. And we had all of these recommendations up on flip charts in the room where we had our meeting, and we gave the members the opportunity to go up to those flip charts and to vote, if you will, on what they feel like is their priority based on that point system. We told them you could put 1 dot on different ones, or you could put all your dots on one, however they wanted to do that. I want to especially thank Mike. Mike did a lot of work on this. He captured a lot of information from the cards, including this. He put the information together here in this table for you to see. So you'll see that, I don't remember how many total recommendations that they are, but you see based on the votes, they're right there in front of you. Number 1, from those who voted and how they used their points, is to ban data centers in Edgecombe County. Number 2 is authorize a robust update of the county's comprehensive plan, unified development ordinance, ensure infrastructure improvements needed are not a burden to the citizens, and so on and so forth. I will say that at least a few of the members indicated to me they wanted to make sure that you saw all of the recommendations, not just the ones that got the top votes. So these are all of the recommendations. Now, I'll also point out still back in the rest of that document, there's still other things in there that are suggested by the group that we captured in their questions and answers, and others that may have not necessarily made it on this, but I think still good information to consider. So, this sort of, I think this is pretty attention grabbing here, but I just don't want you to lose sight that this is not the only place to look in this document. There's information all throughout the document.
If you will, Mr. Evans, please explain the red coding system again across the top.
Yeah, so we gave each person a colored dot based on those colors. And the highest point was the blue dot, and the lowest point.
Highest meaning what?
As far as their priority, how important it felt to them. So, if I felt that extending the radius of notification to citizens to me was more important than doing an in-depth, up-to-date assessment on water availability, then I would likely give the one the blue dot and another one a green or red dot. So it was to give them an opportunity to weight their recommendations.
Because I was trying to figure out how you came up with these numbers. When I look at
So
4
what
and
would the
4 and
red
2 and
dot
4.
represent? Just the red dot in any,
Just 1 point.
just
One
the point system has nothing to do
That's
with
it.
the
Just
light.
1 point. So if a person put a red dot beside any, from that person, that thing got 1 point, and we added those up.
Okay.
So you'll see, like the first one got 4 red dots, 4
Right.
green, 2 yellows, and 4 blues, and that all totals up based on that point system, 34 points. Any other questions about it?
He probably does, just don't know how to ask it.
Oh, I got it now.
You do like 1 times 4 is 4 points.
Yeah.
2 times 4 is 8 points, and you add them all up,
Yeah.
Okay.
and that's how you get your total at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you.
Okay. So, I want to give, I'm calling this the county manager's commentary, all right? So this is my commentary, is not necessary, this is not the group speak in this slide here, but I want to give some commentary from my perspective of this whole process. So the first thing is this. Let me say this to the board, that I think your decision to press pause on this matter and take time to study this more is a very wise decision. This is all very complicated, and it's one of those things that seems like the more you read, the more complicated it gets. It's a big deal. And as you all know, I'm not telling you something you don't know. It's not just a big deal for us. It's a big deal all across the state and the country. Okay. So your decision to press pause on the project that was before you, was to, number one, and we said this before, to learn more about that project. We requested information of that project. I sent a letter on the board's behalf requesting additional information, and you had made it very public that until you got that information, you asked me not to even put it on the agenda. So it's not been on the agenda since, because we've not gotten that information. The second point that I'll make here is that the work of this data center advisory group, I think, has been a good reminder to me, and I think to a lot of people, of the importance of community engagement and transparency. And I'm telling you something that you already know, but in the business of the work that we're responsible to do in leading this county, there's a lot to do every single day. And sometimes, we'll try to be as efficient and get things done, but then sometimes it requires us to slow down. And though we never do anything in a silo, sometimes we just need to broaden the table and who we invite to have those in-depth discussions. So the Data Center Advisory Group helped us to do that, and we're grateful for that. The third thing that I'll note is that economic development requires a balance that falls somewhere between too much regulation and not enough regulation, right? And this plays itself out with a data center or all other kinds of projects as well. And those are the tough decisions that you all have to make as a board. You want to protect this county, protect the interests and environment of this county, protect the people of this county, but we also want this county to grow. So you have to try to find that balance between, what's too much regulation and what's not enough. In fact, you'll see in one of your sheets in your notebook, somebody in the group noted that very thing. What's too much regulation? I don't know if there's a standard answer for that. Well, I know that there's not a standard answer for that, but part of the difficulty of this work is making that balanced decision. And that's why gathering more information, taking the time where you can take the time to be as best informed as you can, is important. Smart growth that's responsible, informed, and intentional requires teamwork and time. And that's really just restating some of what I've already said. As you know, here, the county with our staff, we do things as a team all the time, but sometimes we need to broaden that team. And that's what we've done with this data center advisory group. And here's another important one. I think I understood this pretty good before, but I understand it even better now the more we talk about and study these things. Not all data centers are the same. You've heard me repeat something that I heard from somebody else, that if you've seen one data center, you've seen one data center. So in my opinion, I think making a blanket action or policy to apply to all data centers, in my opinion, again, this is county manager's commentary, is not the best approach, because data centers are different. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and if somebody were to ask you, well, are animals bad? Well, it depends on the animal. It depends on, are they on a leash or not? Are they, so I think we can't lay a blanket across all data centers. And again, this is just my commentary. And the final point is, it's currently this board has opened the door to data centers through our UDO text amendment. Not that one couldn't come before, because one did come before, but you've just now put some regulations in place that dictates where it can go by zoning and what development standards they have to follow in order to build it. And so I would, if you could choose to close the door on data centers if you wanted to, but I would recommend that if we're going to keep the door open, we should at least narrow that door. And that is to tighten our ordinances to better address the concerns and potential impacts to the county. And I think when you look through this document, you'll see that there's a lot of good conversation, a lot of good information, some good suggestions in there about how we might tighten it up. The way I've described before, you all have built a box that if somebody's willing to come in and live inside that box, they can. That is our UDO. I think we need to tighten that box some. You ultimately have the decision as to how you like to proceed with that. But those are just some thoughts that I wanted to share. But again, I want to say thank you to the members of the advisory group. I'm happy to answer the questions of the board of my report, and I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, at this time, I'll just ask the advisory group members here, any of you that would like to give us your thoughts on his report, please come forward and state your name.
Mr. Kelvin Whitson is on deck to talk.
Well, if there's any of the other ones, we'll allow them to come.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chairman and the board. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for what you're doing. And I have to piggyback on Mr. Evans and thank you for the pause. Because in the beginning, it seemed to me that you put the cart before the horse. And since November, well, let me say who I am. I'm Janice Bullock, 217 Freedom Lane, co-chair of the Edgecombe Neighbors for Data Center Accountability. Since November, we organized to gain clarity, understanding, learning, and education. We're still doing that, and we'll continue to do so. It was a pleasure and a privilege to sit on that advisory group. I learned a lot. And as a result, I think I can say that we had the opportunity to witness democracy at its best. Citizens came together. Members came together. We dialogued. We learned. We seeking education. The purpose is to make our county better, to make our citizens better. And I'm thankful for that opportunity, and I will hope that we can continue to do that. As you look at the information that has been presented in that report, I urge you not to overlook the importance of your survey that resulted in 82% of your constituents opposing, expressing their concern. Not only that, right now we have over 1,648 petitioners that are concerned and that are saying, listen to us. So I encourage you, urge you to do that. Your constituents are speaking up and they are speaking out. So, and another thing that I want to share, or just to say that as I sit here and look at, as people are presenting, you are listening. You are listening. I say that for a reason. I was in a meeting, and as people were being presented, not this meeting, but the presenters were not being listened to. I was observing, heads were down, and there were on occasion, some people got up and walked out on the panel as the presenter was, speaking. So I thank you for showing your attentiveness, for listening. I really appreciate that. And as I leave to take my seat, I'm going to present, the petitions are still coming in. The citizens, your constituents, are really concerned, and they are hoping and that you're listening to what they have to say, that you are concerned about them. And my last comment that I'm gonna say as I take a seat, thank you for not fighting.
Okay.
You're welcome.
It ain't over yet.
We too old.
I just like to ask Ms. Bullock one thing. Will, Ms. Bullock,
Yes,
I just got one thing. You know, I'm okay, perfectly fine with petitioners, but are we careful and make sure that these petitioners have what we call a stand? Meaning, do they have something to gain or lose within this county by signing those petitions?
yes.
And these people are not from Ohio, Loudoun County, Virginia, Nebraska, or Hawaii. So
Count.
they from here, our county.
They from.
These are people we're representing.
Yes.
I pray they are. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody.
All
My
right.
name is David Batts. I stay at 1827 Kingsborough Road. I've been staying at that area, that house for 40 years. But I've stayed in the Kingsborough area for 69 years. I was born there, went to school there. I raised my kids there. I came to this board before this room was even formed, back when they were doing it in the courthouse. 1995, we did it. We had a big hog operation trying to come to town, and we fought against that. And I thought that was a good memorial. And I thought that we made a stand, and the county commission listened to us. But on today, when our leaders say something, we take it serious. When a new company is proposed, we want them to really do their homework. We want to know the pros and the cons. We want y'all to do the pros and the cons. We don't have to do them, but we will do them. When something of this magnitude as a data center come to town, this is more than just a Pepsi-Cola plant. This is a serious matter. It takes a lot of interest in other things that make this thing work. And those are the things that really concern the people of Kingsborough. I would hope by now that all the commission have gained enough information to make a conscious decision about data centers. I think that we have brought good information. I think the advisory board has gave good information. So I think and I will hope that they will make it constant and good situation. Y'all know who I am. I'm against data centers. I ran against data centers. I'm not a politician, but I'm a person that loves my community. My community means so much to me. We will hope that y'all will make good decisions. We want our community to be mindful of what they are facing. We don't think there was enough information put out. I was, the other week, they had a problem with the water. And the water department sent a letter out to everybody that was on tap water. That would have been a good way to get the information out to the people about these data centers. You put it in the paper, at the Ag Center, but very few people came. If you had put that letter in the mail to all the residents in these 7 districts, they would at least know something about these data centers. That's the kind of information that should be put out to every citizen in the area, so they'll know exactly what's going on. The people in Kingsborough want good jobs. We have a good community. Our commission have done a good job. I really think after this, that some good things gonna come to our county, and we will land on our feet. Thank you.
I will go next. Good evening, everyone. I'm Katie Zimmerman. I work as your Pamlico-Tar River Keeper for the local nonprofit Sound Rivers, and really appreciated the opportunity to be part of the advisory group and appreciate the opportunity to share some final thoughts tonight. As you saw, the top recommendation voted on by this group was to ban data centers in Edgecombe County. And to my understanding, that was really referring to hyperscale data centers, not just all data centers, because like Mr. Evans was saying, they are all different, so many different shapes and sizes. So really referring to those hyperscale ones that are over 100 megawatts. But there are many reasons for that recommendation, some of which are that the technologies that these hyperscale facilities are currently operating with and our state's legislation are simply just not up to the standards yet of being able to adequately protect the communities that they're placed in. So until this is not the case, the group has agreed that approving a hyperscale data center in the county would just not be a justifiable decision. Our region is still experiencing severe drought to the point where Rocky Mount and a lot of other municipalities in the area are urging its residents to limit their water intake. And for farmers, farmers are also being asked to reduce their water use. So as we navigate through this extreme drought period and understand that future droughts like this are inevitable, it's an important reminder that our freshwater, the Tar River, is not an infinite resource. And the water supply of the river itself does not always align with what the water treatment plants have the capacity to treat. We know that the cooling processes these data centers use introduce a myriad of contaminants to the water, which gets sent back through the wastewater systems and eventually into our waterways. But current reporting requirements of existing data centers, or lack thereof, presents a transparency issue to the point where we really don't know the exact pollutants and their volumes coming from a typical data center. Even North Carolina's lawmakers are acknowledging that our state is not prepared for the rapid growth of this industry. Senate Bill 730, or the Ratepayer Protection Act, is one of the first major yet incomplete attempts to address the impacts of data centers, including water use, local environmental impacts, and community protections. The fact that the legislature is still debating these issues demonstrates that the regulatory framework is not where it needs to be. Even supporters of this bill describe it as a first step and not a comprehensive solution. So until the state has established stronger protections, clearer oversight, and a better understanding of the long-term impacts of these facilities, there's really no good reason to rush ahead for short-term economic gain. Thank you.
Okay. Was there anybody else?
Good evening. Thanks for letting us speak again tonight. I was honored to have been a part of this group. It was a good group. We did work hard. We worked hard in the meetings, but we worked really hard at home gathering this information to present at these meetings. And Mr. Evans, I want to thank you. I think you did a good job of setting the groundwork for us to have good conversation. I didn't like Mr. Evans' point system, and he knows that. I may explain it just a little bit more.
That's what committees are for, to dislike each other.
No, we don't dislike each other. I just
The
dislike
comments,
that
their
method.
points, okay. To come to some consensus, to try to come to a consensus, okay.
So when I started out, I thought that shoring up our UDO to allow any data center that wanted to operate in the county and do so responsibly could do that. And I really thought that we could maybe zone them out until the state and federal laws sort of caught up with it, or until they realized they had to make changes themselves. And I think that they are realizing that they have to make changes. With the momentum behind the initial project in the county, I never considered for a second that this board would consider banning them. I hope that I was wrong in the beginning. So I spent a lot of hours looking at other counties' ordinances regarding data centers, which is one reason that a lot of reports so long. So there's some suggested changes in there in the library that I made. And I know there are mistakes in there and some gaps in there, but it was an enormous amount of work. I pulled and copied and pasted from other counties' ordinances. But the more I worked, the more I understood that no matter how many protections we put in place, we're still vulnerable. And vulnerable in ways that aren't applicable to other industries. With data centers, I'm going to say that again. Data centers make us vulnerable in ways that are not applicable to most other industry. So it is a long report, and at the heart is that recommendation sheet that Mr. Evans showed you. And I'm the one that wants, well, maybe everybody does. I just want you to understand that all of those recommendations came with consent of the group. But the way we had to rank things we were basically choosing, changing the ordinance, shoring up our ordinance, or banning a data center. That's sort of how it felt in the end. That's not your fault. So it just seems like only the top 2 or 3 are important in the way that it was done. And I think that they were all important. So we were a little thrown. I was a little thrown by the point system, which was we didn't rank our top 4 in order with our 4 stickers. Rather, we could use all of our votes, as you said, on any one. So it was sort of some voting strategy involved that I didn't have time to comprehend. So I put all of my votes on where my work had gone, which was in shoring up the ordinance. And really, I regret that. I wish I had put all of mine on banning hyperscale data centers in the county. So I'm not sure that recommendation sheet is fully representative of our collective opinion and of the hours of deliberation that we spent. So I want to stress that if anything, I think this report underemphasizes the consensus of the group in its opposition to hyperscale data centers. But some quick points that if you choose to allow hyperscale data centers, that remember cutting edge technology in this industry becomes obsolete very quickly. Over 500 data centers have been decommissioned in the US already, and it's a very expensive thing to do. So if you choose to allow hyperscale data centers, please be sure that we have something for decommissioning bond requirement in there. Should you go against our recommendation and not ban them, be ready to regulate a power plant, because they all want to generate their own power. And most people want them to because they don't want their electric bills to go up. But after talking with Eddie Stocks and knowing it takes 3 to 5 years to get substation components in, they don't want to wait 3 to 5 years. They want to generate their own power, and they use outdated and piecemeal equipment, and they get the opportunity to throw in some green energy words that generally don't mean anything. So I think eliminating behind the grid energy generation on that scale would be a must, should they be allowed. Closed loop systems are not closed. The flush water goes basically unregulated back into the Tar River, which is our water source. And as Katie said, Rocky Mount might have the capacity to treat that volume of water, but I don't think they have the resource to treat. If you look at the Tar River, you know that. One last thing, I don't know when this would come up for a vote, but I do hope that since there's so much information here, I hope you'll do it justice and give it more than a couple of weeks. I hope you'll at least wait till August to make a decision on this.
Well, I think what I've said, I think we're talking about ordinance amendments, not necessarily at this time. We're not talking about a data center coming. There is no application for a data center. I think we're talking about, we as a board, we're talking about if that would happen, how would that orders take? How would the UDO take the corrective action to make sure that it is worth bringing? All that is consideration from the board. I don't know where our board is going as it relates to this. We're still seeking information, but I would say one thing is our staff, while those things that we've done as it relates to any proposed economic development, we do our research. Our staff gets our research. Sometimes we might not be getting the same research you get, but we do. Our staff does, and we are talking about it. It's just these things we talk about in closed session. which we can do, which the public does not benefit on. So I would say that what I also would say is that I think Mr. Batts made a comment in terms of this board has not had a policy of informing the public of every time there is an application for a process, and I don't think that that's one we will do. I think that what the community has done, we have responded to the community in terms of this is an industry that you need to look at and we need to know. And as a result of that, we began to provide more information to the public that we could. And that has been a good process. Okay, there's been a very good process. And that kind of process will continue, okay, on anything. And you know, we've done it, and it's been in closed session. It's not been in secret. It has been according to what we could do by general statutes. And a lot of this is done based on land sales and other things. You know, you won't be able to get it if you're out there. The land sales goes up. So a lot of things, a lot of folks before me thought this out, okay? But those are the reasons for a lot of things. I think we've had a good board. We've had an open board, and we will continue to do that. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, good evening.
Hey, all
I'm
right.
Jim Wren, 704 NC 97 Eastern Leggett. Since November, I've been before you several times to speak on this subject, and I've been a part of this data center advisory group. And thank you for including me in that group in the discussions. We've heard some commissioners say they need more information, and information on the health hazards of data centers are coming out every day. Much of that information is included in this report from the advisory group. And I appreciate Mr. Evans including all that stuff that we have submitted for your review. We oppose excessive use of water resources, especially when Edgecombe is in severe drought and we need water for our people, animals, and crops. We oppose excessive use of electricity, whether inside our grid, driving up our electric bills, or even worse, outside the grid by supplying electricity through toxic air polluting generators, threatening our breathing, like has been happening in Memphis, Tennessee. Data centers, especially hyperscale data centers, has been proposed for Edgecombe County, provide few jobs, provide few taxes due to state sales tax exemptions, and take a big footprint that threaten good industry from coming here. We found that people in Edgecombe County across the board are opposed to data centers, white and black, Democrat, Republican, Independent. Town councils of Canida, Princeville, Leggett, Whitakers have all passed resolutions against data centers. Pine Tops and Mackfield are not far behind. We know the town council of Tarboro has rejected a data center. David Batts ran for county commissioner in District 6 on a no data center platform and won the Democratic primary March 3rd by a 2-1 margin. District 6 voters sent a message to all their candidates and to this board. Over 1,600 people have signed a petition against data centers in Edgecombe County, and almost as many have signed another petition in the city of Rocky Mountain. And this issue is statewide. Every day you hear towns and municipalities and counties taking action, moratoriums, and taking action to data centers. We call on you as our elected county board to listen to the people and stand with the citizens against these data centers and not side with big industry, AI, and crypto billionaires. Stand with Edgecombe, just as we rejected the hazardous waste dump in 1988 and the IBP hog slaughterhouse in 1996. Edgecombe is on the front line of this battle, and the whole world is watching Edgecombe. Just as we said in 1996, we can do better than hyperscale data centers and say no to data centers. I would like one comment in terms of Renee. I do think that Mr. Evans, the point system was in that report was somewhat understated our opposition to data centers. And I want clear at the beginning that we could put all our stickers on what we would get. So we inadvertently gave points to other things we really weren't supportive of. I think that understates, as Renee said, I think the voting point system was not clear in the beginning to us how that was done. But still, the majority said no data centers. And that's where we stand. And thank you.
I'm the only one left now. Kevin Wilson, 3767 Howard Avenue. And while all my constituents in our group have been talking about starting in November, it's 1 year almost to the day that I was informed that Tarboro was considering this same developer for a data center in Tarboro. So I've been involved in this and studying it from all sides for a year. I still don't know everything there is to know about it. And every day I'm uncovering things that scare me even more than other things that I thought I knew. For instance, today, just NPR had an article this afternoon saying that the government is realizing that AI and data centers are growing so fast, technology is changing so fast, that they don't know how to even begin to regulate it anymore. Now, if the government can't do this with all these specialists that know how to understand this, how can we as Edgecombe County find ourselves in a position of being able to regulate a data center? And we also need to be saying not just data center, but crypto mining. They are one and the same. And I think our UDO codes state that, and we need to be saying that because it's just as dangerous for the county as the data center. Fayetteville has put in a moratorium. Wilson, I was informed last night, is about to instate a moratorium. Northampton County has a 32-month moratorium they just instigated. And we are going to Raleigh for a lobbying day this week, this Wednesday, to talk to legislatures because things are changing very quickly. The S-730 bill doesn't, we put in there 100 megawatt being a hyperscale. They're saying 25 megawatts constitutes a hyperscale that needs to be regulated. So technology is changing very quickly. It's very possible that in 5 to 7 years, there may be a technology for this process that is not as damaging to our air and land, that is not using quite as much water, that we don't have to use, and that is more reliable as a community partner. And right now, that's just not the case that we're seeing in data centers. I think that the comment was made about being open and being able to see what's going on. A lot of times you can't tell the public what's going on. But its data center issue is so big, it cannot be contained in ways that we've looked at other industries in the past. No other industries come here that had this kind of magnitude on so many issues that upset and scare the public the way this one does. So I think transparency may need to be reconsidered in some cases where we have projects that large and that have that much magnitude of impact on the county.
And I say we will be as transparent as we can.
I understand that. I'm just saying, and I realize why it's done, but there hasn't been data center type industries in the past that have come knocking on our door. And maybe we have to adapt to some new ways of approaching those kinds of things in the future. Is basically all I'm saying in that.
And I would say, I think just, during this whole process has been a learning process for all of us. Okay. And that's because of many of you in terms of I would say when at first, I think I have been challenged as to since we started this in terms of what we are learning about it. Okay. And I would say, and as I stated again, this should happen all the time as it relates to those things that the community want to talk to us about. Okay. Okay. And it is the community that makes us dig deeper. Okay. It makes us dig deeper. So, it's been a good process for me. Okay. And I invite this kind of, without controversy, there's no change. And sometimes we might not need necessarily change that we are considering, and that controversy itself will help us make those decisions.
And as Eric said, every data center is different.
Everyone.
And as Paul Simon said, a man sees what he wants to see and disregards the rest. So sometimes you look at things at the way you want to perceive it without looking at the bigger picture of what it really means to other people.
Until
That's
that,
the
until
problem
that,
our entire country has right now.
until that picture is painted. Yeah, exactly. I would agree. I'm looking at my picture, and your picture is different.
That's it.
It is. All the time. Yeah. And I don't
All
know.
the issues
And right now, I don't know what the picture.
publication.
And the picture now is blurred. Okay. Is there anybody else? Is there anybody else? Oh, anybody? No, sir. Were you on the committee? No, sir. No, sir. Only that committee right now, sir. This is not a public petition. No disrespect to you. Okay. Just that time. I opened it up to them because they were an advisory group, and we allowed them to speak to that. I would also say to you, there will be additional time. This board is not considering that. This public will know if and when come to us. This is not something that is up. And it will not be happening in the next month or two, I don't believe, okay? So there is time for this consideration. Anything from this board? Hearing none. Next agenda item, Ms. Evans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we will move.
Hold it. At this time, let's take let's recess for about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Let's recess for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. I should have updated you. I mean, he was great. He wanted to either buy or lease that property.
I mean, can't. Eric done got cheap and never had no more chocolate candy.
Ms. Evans?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We are now have some budget amendments before you. You have 10, including the one that I asked if you would add, which is at your seat. For time's sake, I'm happy to go through these if you like, or if you just want to ask any questions.
Any questions from the board in relation to any of the budget amendments? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. They are approved. Next, Ms. Evans?
Next is regarding the recommended budget for FY 26-27. You have in your agenda packet the budget message. As a note, as you will recall, I gave a presentation at your first June meeting, I forget the date, and you had public hearing that night. Nothing has changed in the budget. There have been no changes. For the sake of those who are here or watching who may have not had the opportunity to see that, I won't read through this entire budget message. I will make a few, I'll point out a few highlights regarding it. As far as an overview of the budget, the proposed budget includes no change in our property tax, 89 cents per $100 in value. It's the recommended tax rate for this coming fiscal year. 1 cent generates a little over $454,000. The total budget recommended is $82,171,779. This is a decrease of approximately $675,000. Also, it does include a fund balance appropriation of a little over $9.4 million, which is approximately $1.2 million less than the original fund balance appropriation of the current fiscal year. Revenue highlights, this includes a total budgeted property tax revenue of $39.2 million. It is an increase of $250,000 from this current year's budget for ad valorem tax revenue. We are holding our sales tax revenue budget flat to current years, though our current year, our revenues are exceeding the budget for sales tax. However, with uncertainty about the economy moving forward, we thought it wise to hold flat with our sales tax revenues. Expenditure highlights, personnel, as always, is our largest component of our expenditure budget. 46.5% of our budget is salary and personnel related. This budget does include an increase for our health insurance costs, our premiums at a 10% increase. We also have in here, I noted the other cost pressures that are pressing against our costs for personnel. Due to the county's efforts to restore fund balance, this recommended budget does not include a cost of living adjustment. As I mentioned at your last meeting, we'll again mention tonight, I would recommend that as we move into the new fiscal year, as we see it, get enough of revenue and expenditure behind us to see trends. If we see trends positive enough where we can reconsider that, I would ask that you let us do so. The budget also, again, to slow down our spending. As I've mentioned before, the gap between our revenue and expenditures, right now revenues exceed expenditures. That gap is closing some, however, it is not closing fast enough. And so we're doing some of the measures I've mentioned, others I will mention in a few minutes. That includes pausing our credential incentive program. As you know, we have used that as an opportunity to recruit and retain staff. It's been an effective tool. It's not for every position. It is only in positions where there are reasonable credentials, opportunities there that does require some rigor and effort in achieving. But in order, it's a good tool, but it does cost the county. So recommend that we pause our credential incentive program as well as our educational incentive. Our educational incentive is if an employee gets a degree that is somewhat related to their job, that they get a one-time bonus of a percentage depending on that degree. Recommend that we pause that as well in the coming fiscal year. Also, some certain discretionary workforce initiatives that I'll talk about in just a little bit. But again, I would recommend that we revisit these items at the appropriate time in the new fiscal year. I'll go to a brief discussion about outside agencies. As always, we receive more requests from outside agencies than we are recommending to budget. Our total request was a little over $20 million. This budget includes a total of $15,656,373 total for all outside agencies. Of course, that includes Edgecombe School System, which is the largest appropriation to outside agencies goes to the school system, includes the school system as well. As I mentioned before, some of our discretionary programs we recommend to pause in this coming year's budget. That includes our getting off the list discretionary funding. That has been a total of $200,000 where we invite outside agencies who are doing work in one of our 4 focus areas to submit a proposal for funding up to $25,000. That is not included in this budget. Our Edgecombe Works programs, our partnership with the community college for our Edgecombe Works academies, summer youth programs, and a few others. The total's $180,000 is not included in this budget, as well as our recreation mini grant, which is a total of $50,000, is not included in this budget as well. Again, we like to refer to these as pausing these initiatives, but I highly recommend as soon as we're able to return to those. For capital outlay, for what is budget, as you know, we've had conversation. You've seen the list before of each department's requests, and of those requests, those that I recommend. This budget only includes a very limited number of capital outlay projects. General fund support totaling $103,000, and then in the water and sewer fund, $65,000. There are a number of items which we've talked about. It totals $1.85 million, a little more than that, that I'm recommending that we consider financing those initiatives. We are in the process of continuing to gather information on that. We will be getting quotes on terms. Of course, that'll be a future decision for you all to make. We anticipate if we do go that route, and if you approve us going that route, that we will have no expenditure for that in the coming fiscal year. So there is no additional debt service related to this budgeted for these items. But as I said, you will have the opportunity to decide by vote at a future meeting on whether or not to borrow money for those items. In our enterprise funds, solid waste and water and sewer, in both of those, we are recommending fee increases with the solid waste. Our regional landfill, our contract with them for both the tipping fees, for the cost of us taking our municipal solid waste to them, as well as transportation costs. That's all one contract, all one fee per ton is increasing, and so therefore we are recommending increasing our fees as well. You have a copy of that a little bit further down in your agenda packet. In water and sewer, as I've mentioned before, City of Rocky Mount is increasing their rates by 15%, the town of Tarboro by 5%, and therefore we're recommending to increase our utility rates somewhere between those, not exactly 7% or so you'll see, but it's between those two in order to keep up with the cost of the purchase of the water from our two providers. Again, a copy of the recommended fee schedule is further down in your agenda packet. We've talked about, as I've mentioned before, you all adopted in 2016 a fiscal policy, or you adopted fiscal policy guidelines that includes that our goal, or really that we would have a minimum unassigned fund balance being funds we have in reserve, Unassigned means that it is not already spoken for a particular predetermined use, but is available for the county to use to meet, capital needs or to close gaps in the budget. That policy says that we will maintain a minimum of 15%. I do want to clarify, I said this at the last meeting. I've seen it incorrectly mentioned in some social media reports that the 15% is a requirement of the state. It is not. The state asks for counties and towns to maintain at least 8%. We are above that. Our own set rule is that we'd be at 15%. And so we have gone below that at 12.6 as of our last audit, FY25 audit. And that policy says that we are to adopt a plan to restore it within 24 months. So part of the budget, that plan lives in this budget that's being presented. So in addition to some of the things I've already mentioned, other strategies to restore our unassigned fund balance to 15% includes reducing our fund balance appropriation, which we have or we are in this budget at 1.2 million, as already mentioned, delaying a cost of living increase for staff, holding outside agencies funding generally flat, except where we are statutorily or by an agreement required to provide funding based on a formula. Restricting travel and training expenditures. You see on the agenda is there are guidelines we'll talk about in a few minutes on how we will restrict travel and training. Pausing our discretionary initiatives, incentive programs, as I've mentioned, and avoiding the addition of new positions. There are other alternatives that we have discussed, but they are not in this budget. If the measures that we have in place now are not enough, we find, to sufficiently close that gap between expenditures and revenue, we may have to revisit some of these, but others that we've discussed have been additional budget cuts, elimination of vacant positions, shifting a portion of our health insurance premium to employees, reducing or eliminating our wellness programs, and increasing the property tax rate. Again, those are not included in this budget, but there may be measures that we have to revisit. At this point, I think the measures that we are taking, based on the trends that we're seeing, we believe will be sufficient. We will see. We'll continue to closely monitor that. Again, I just want to thank all of our department heads. I want to thank especially Ms. Barfield and her team, the executive team, and everybody's work on this budget. Thank you to the Budget Committee for the time that you've given to meet outside of the full board's meeting, and thank you to the board for your support. You have in your agenda packet the budget ordinances for FY 26-27. Do recommend approve. Before you do that, as you know, state statute requires that we identify any conflicts of interest from the board members and that we to address those separately. The way that we've done that in the past, I recommend we do that tonight. And that rests in those outside agencies that we fund. You have in your agenda packet this list here of the outside agencies. I have identified here those conflicts that I'm aware of. If there are others that I haven't noted here, please let me know. For those who have a conflict, what we need is for the board first to identify that publicly, and secondly, for the board to excuse that member from voting by way of a vote to excuse the member. Then after that, to vote on that particular outside agency funding request. Then after we do each of those, we will come back and ask that you adopt the budget ordinances as presented. The first that I note, just going down on the list, is funding to the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. These are really dues that we pay. Commissioner Harris is chairperson for their risk management board, and so that there being, I don't think, a very direct conflict, but I think it would be wise of us to identify that conflict and recommend the board to address that conflict.
Is there a motion
motion to excuse Ms. Harris.
Ms. Harris.
So, second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye. All opposed, hearing none. Ms. Harris, you are excused from the voting on that portion of the budget. That's correct.
Yes, sir. And so the recommendation of funding to the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners for FY 27 is $7,425 is the recommendation.
So moved.
Question? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye. All opposed, those would be all of the commissioners except Ms. Harris.
Thank you. Next is for Caroline's Gateway Partnership. Commissioner Thorne serves on the board of directors for the partnership, and so he would need to be excused from both.
Motion.
Excusing Mr. Thorne.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye. All opposed? Hearing none. Mr. Thorne is excused.
The recommendation for Caroline's Gateway Partnership funding is $310,000.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye. All opposed? Hearing none. That is approved.
Next is
Mr. Thorne
funding
has
for
been
Edgecombe
excused.
Community College. Commissioner Harris is an employee of Edgecombe Community College and should be excused.
Mr. Evans, I serve on the Edgecombe Community College Board of Directors Foundation.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that.
Excuse Ms. Harris and Mr. Webb.
It's okay, that motion was to excuse Ms. Harris and Mr. Webb, and we do have a second. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. All opposed? Hearing none, those two are excused from voting on this matter.
The recommendation of funding for the community college is $2,072,249.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. All opposed? Hearing none, that is approved.
Next is for Braswell Memorial Library. Commissioner Whitley serves on the board of directors for the library and should be excused from that.
Move to excuse Mr. Woodley.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. All opposed? Hearing none, Mr. Woodley is excused from this matter.
Chairman Wiggins, in regards to Edgecombe Memorial Library, I believe we had, were we not gonna look at, what's the ruling or law in regards to a separate, amendment of voting in regards to some taxing?
Yes, there's discussion at our last meeting about whether there's being authority to levy a separate tax to support libraries. And Mr. Peters, I believe you did research that and find that there is, I believe.
Yes, sir. It would require a vote by the citizens of Edgecombe County to levy that tax.
Well, I'm just gonna speak up and say, on behalf of the library, I don't think they have received any additional funding for the last 10 years. In light of the fact that their services may be cut, I'm just simply asking, what, is there not something there? Maybe not to meet exactly what they're saying, but is there a happy medium in between what they're asking and what we're saying we can do?
I think we're talking about two different libraries right there. We're talking about Brownsville now.
That's right.
We're talking about Brownsville now.
Right.
We're
You're
not,
talking about Edgecombe.
we're talking about,
Yes, sir.
okay, that's fine, that's fine. Okay.
Hold that thought.
But, well, your thought is on record. Okay, okay.
Motion to approve funding for Braswell Library.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. Did we get the opposition? Did we get that vote through?
Yes,
To excuse them? We did. We got it. Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Evans.
So I will, to your point, Mr. Webb, you'll see that Edgecombe Memorial Library recommendation here is to hold them flat or constant to where they are now, $376,600. I know some of you have expressed an interest in possibly funding them more. As the library director was here during your public hearing. I certainly don't oppose that. What I would recommend that if you do choose to do that as a board, I would suggest that you do that at your July meeting or later. At this point, if we change this, we'll have to redo the ordinance
you.
itself.
Thank you.
But again, do not argue against that. Certainly that
I
that'd be
think,
the choice of the board
and also even after this approval, there's always time to come back and request,
for any of them. yeah.
request for anything in this budget.
Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
To make
Could
those,
I
correct.
make kind of just a comment from
Go
the
ahead.
board? Could
Go
we go
ahead.
ahead and add that to the agenda for the July meeting?
Yes.
What's that?
Discuss the Edgecombe
Just discuss the
Library.
increased funding for Edgecombe Memorial Library.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think what we all, I don't think we need to put it, if we're gonna do it, let's have a conversation, at least call, and we'll know what we're gonna do. I don't think we need to be discussing it and turn it down. I think we need to be prepared if we come in with a recommendation. Let's come with a recommendation. I'm not opposed to what you're saying, but if we're gonna do something, let's be prepared to do it. Okay, and I'm saying we can discuss that among ourselves or talk to each other and see what's recommended. But let's be prepared. I don't think we need to be here discussing and don't do it. That's my point, I guess. Okay. But also we can do what you requested, okay? But I want us to come prepared to do something. Okay.
It would have my support.
Well, I see that you were trying to do it. You trying to get it on the agenda. I see that support. So now where are we now? Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
So next will be Upper Coastal Plain Council of Government. Commissioner Webb serves on the board of directors for the COG, and so should be excused from that.
Motion to excuse Mr. Webb.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by vote sign aye. All opposed, Mr. Webb is excused.
The recommendation of funding is $22,163.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed, hearing none, that is approved. Now you got everybody covered that you think?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Everybody.
okay.
So now the recommendation would be to approve, for all of the board to approve outside funding based on the information provided, excluding the Association of County Commissioners, Carolinas Gateway Partnership, Edgecombe Community College, Braswell Memorial Library, and Upper Coastal Plain Council of Governments.
Who makes that motion?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Boswell makes the motion. Ms. Powell seconds. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved.
And next, as related to the budget, will be the budget ordinances, which you have a copy in your agenda packet. It covers our general fund and all other necessary funds. You'll see, as was presented in my budget message, just for our general fund, will be a total budget of $82,171,779 in the general fund. Other funds are included there as well. Recommend that you approve.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Moving on, Ms. Evans.
Next is related to temporary administrative policy guidelines for restrictions on travel and training. As we mentioned, one of the strategies recommended in this budget to close that revenue expenditure gap is to deploy these temporary guidelines. As part of the county's effort to slow down expenditure growth, preserve and rebuild the county's fund balance, and maintain core services without increasing the property tax rate, the proposed FY27 budget includes several expenditure control measures. One of these measures is the temporary restriction of employee travel and training expenditures during the upcoming fiscal year. The proposed guidelines would limit county-funded travel and training to activities considered essential to county operations, legal or regulatory compliance, professional certification, public safety readiness, mandated services, and direct service delivery. The county recognizes the importance of professional development, continuing education, and employee training. The proposed guidelines are not intended to eliminate necessary training or prevent employees from maintaining the licenses, certifications, credentials, and qualifications required for their positions. Instead, the guidelines establish a consistent process for distinguishing essential activities from discretionary conferences, networking events, retreats, association meetings, and other non-essential travel. Under the proposed guidelines, mandatory training, certification, licensing, accreditation, regulatory compliance, and essential public safety training may continue. Departments will be expected to prioritize virtual, local, regional, and internal training opportunities. The number of employees attending the same event should be limited whenever practical. Overnight and out-of-state travel will require the approval of me, county manager. Overnight lodging will generally not be approved when same-day travel is reasonably practical. Non-essential conferences, retreats, networking events, and elective professional development activities will generally be suspended, and limited exceptions may be approved when necessary to protect the county's operational interests. Guidelines will supplement the county's existing travel policy and will remain in effect until through June 30th, 2027, unless modified or rescinded by the board. The exact amount of savings will depend upon departmental travel and training needs during the fiscal year. However, implementation of the guidelines is expected to reduce expenditures for registration fees, lodging, meals, mileage reimbursement, transportation, and other travel-related costs. I recommend that the board approve the attached FY 26-27 administrative guidelines for essential travel and training effective July 1, 26, and authorize me to administer the guidelines and approve limited exceptions when necessary to protect the county's operational interests.
Motion. Second.
Second.
Any questions from the board?
Just one comment.
Go ahead.
I feel like as a board, if we're asking this of our staff and everyone, that we should also consider what this policy is we're implementing. So just something to kind of ponder as a board.
Well, then I think the motion includes the board. Okay. That motion includes the board. And if there's in that case, if there's a request from the board, it needs to come to the board. Okay. The board has discretion in terms of how to allow its members to travel. Any other questions? All in favor, let me know by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved.
Item 5 is regarding revised county fee schedule. We periodically review our fee schedules to ensure that they remain reasonable and reflect service delivery costs. As a part of the development of the FY 27 budget, we've reviewed fees associated with the following areas: emergency medical services, planning and inspections, water and sewer, and solid waste. Proposed changes are intended to better align certain fees with the actual cost of providing services, address increases in personnel, equipment, contractual, disposal, utility, and administrative expenses, and reduce to the extent to which these specialized services must be supported by general county revenues. The proposed water and sewer and solid waste fee changes were also included in the FY 27 budget ordinance. They are being presented as part of this revised county fee schedule as a separate agenda item for clarity and transparency to the public. So the changes are not lost within the broader context of the annual budget approval. I recommend that you approve these fee schedule changes as presented effective July 1, 2026.
Motion. Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, they are approved. Next.
Next is regarding our home and community care block grant funding amendment for the current fiscal year. The Area Agency on Aging has directed adjustments to the home and community care block grant funding allocations based on regional utilization requirements. We request your review and approval of the funding adjustments to these service allocations as they are shown in the attachment. I recommend that you approve.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Next.
Next is regarding home and community care block grant allocation for the coming fiscal year, FY '27. You have in your agenda packet there, the recommended funding plan for FY '27. The plan continues to support, for key services such as in-home aid, meals, adult day services, and information and assistance. The recommendation reflects the committee's priorities in aligning available resources with local needs. Board approval is requested to proceed. I recommend that you approve as presented.
Motion.
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, it is approved.
Item number 8, our utilities department requests authorization to solicit and engage the services of a qualified engineering firm to prepare a preliminary engineering report, or PER, for the county's proposed water meter conversion project. Purpose of this project is to evaluate the replacement and modernization of existing water metering infrastructure. The PER will assess current system conditions, identify project needs and alternatives, develop cost estimates, establish project priorities, and provide recommendations for implementation. In addition, the engineering firm will assist the county in identifying and pursuing potential grant and loan opportunities available through state and federal funding programs to support the project. The conversion to an upgraded metering system is anticipated to improve accuracy and reliability of meter readings, enhance operational efficiency, reduce water loss, and provide improved customer service capabilities, and position the county to meet future system demands through advanced metering technology. Funding will likely be available through USDA rural development. However, USDA does require that the board first authorize staff to select a firm to complete the PER. Therefore, I recommend that you do so, and the staff will allow, and the staff will follow the county's procurement policies in selecting a firm.
Motion.
Motion.
Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved.
The next item is regarding new school capital reserve project ordinance. We're requesting that you to revise the school capital ordinance to appropriate continued increased receipts in Article 40 and 42 sales tax. The revision adds an additional $36,236 from Article 40 sales tax revenues and $32,415 from Article 42 sales tax revenues to the school capital reserve. The amounts represent the required school capital reserve allocation based on actual sales tax estimates and collections received to date. The revision also includes $400,000 of the repair and renovation lottery authorization for Phillips Middle School roof repair project. This project was submitted after the last school capital reserve revision and was not included at that time. I recommend that you approve the amended ordinance as presented.
Motion.
So moved.
Second by Ms. Harris.
Yeah, that's it.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Next.
The next is regarding approval of interlocal agreement regarding the dissolution of the town of Speed. The town of Speed has completed the statutory process necessary to dissolve its municipal charter effective June 30th, 2026. As part of that process, the town has worked closely with us, the local government commission, and residents of the Speed community to develop a plan for the orderly transition of municipal assets, responsibilities, and services. Attached for your consideration is a memorandum of agreement and understanding between Edgecombe County and the town of Speed that memorializes the commitments, responsibilities, and understanding reached during the dissolution planning process. The agreement is consistent with the town's approved dissolution plan of action and the board's previously adopted resolution of intent to accept certain assets of the town and utilize those assets for the benefit of the Speed community. Among other provisions, the agreement establishes procedures for the transfer and stewardship of town funds following dissolution, provides for the creation of a Speed community budget committee to review remaining town funds and eligible revenues collected after dissolution for the benefit of the Speed community, establishes a citizen advisory committee to provide recommendations regarding expenditures and community needs, transfers designated real and personal property assets from the town to Edgecombe County, provides for continued maintenance of public areas previously maintained by the town, authorizes temporary solid waste disposal accommodations for Speed residents, and establishes a speed overlay district to facilitate a smooth transition from municipal to county land use regulations. County staff have participated in multiple public meetings with town officials and residents throughout this process and believe the agreement reflects the commitments made to the community while providing an appropriate framework for managing assets and services following dissolution. I recommend that you approve the agreement as presented.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second? Questions?
My question,
Yes, ma'am.
authorizes temporary solid waste disposal accommodation. How temporary are we talking?
So what that means is, when next property bill goes out, all county residents are billed $150. So that won't be until
February of 2027 when the next notice is filed.
right. So between now and then, what we're doing is giving them access to use our convenience sites before they've actually paid that solid waste fee is what the agreement
And that
proposes.
fees increase in this budget to 155.
That's right, 155.
That means they're gonna get a new $155
They
bill.
just told you they can't pay for the lights now. You gonna tell me they have to pay for that?
Well,
Every other
they
citizen-
they in the county now. They're in the county. Well, she said they couldn't pay.
And by the way, most of them are paying for pickup service, curbside pickup service now. It will be up to them if they want to continue that. They will do that directly with the company. Otherwise, they will have access to our.
Which might be cheaper.
The ones that pay the private contractor, they pay a reduced rate of $50. So they still have access to the landfill at the reduced rate with the knowledge that they're less likely to use it as often because they have it picked up at their home.
Okay. Well,
No, a lady that left me a message on my home phone asking me about that. Oh God, that trash people.
everybody, I got a new trash bill. Everything's going up. Any other questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Next.
Next is regarding projects for school capital reserve for the school capital reserve fund. As you're aware, part of the county's sales tax revenue collected specifically under Articles 40 and 42 is designated for school capital purposes. After the annual school debt service obligations and recurring capital outlay are funded, any remaining balance is transferred to our school capital fund, as you just approved an amendment to that ordinance to add more money to that fund. Per the understanding between the Board of Commissioners and the Edgecombe County Board of Education, proposed uses of these funds are to be submitted to the Board of Commissioners for review and approval prior to expenditure. Dr. Andrew Bryan, as superintendent, has submitted the attached list of proposed capital projects for our consideration. I recommend that you approve as presented.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Anything for contracts, Mr. Evans?
No, sir. I should call out there. The first one is with the town of Canita. The town of Canita has taken action that they are adding a new solid waste fee that will be collected along with their property taxes. So there is an amended contract between the county and the town of Canita that includes now not only collecting their property taxes, but also that solid waste fee. Two other contracts, happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Is there a motion? A motion to approve the
Second.
questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. Aye. All opposed? They are approved. We have already done the reports. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're scheduled to go into a closed session to discuss economic development, North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A4. Is there a motion?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed, we will now be going to executive session. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
I need y'all to save some of this air. start saving on that.
Still 30.
So that
I'll be out here for 2 national championship basketball.
I've been going to
Thought about changing that on this
We on?
schedule this year.
Did you want to raise that question? Did you want to
Yeah.
raise it?
Yeah, I did have a question. I wanted to find out two things. When the last time you had an update from the superintendent about North Edgecombe High School?
We've had some conversation in my office. It's been a couple of weeks ago.
Because at my 50th reunion this weekend, I got some information from the principal that kind of shocked us. That hasn't gone out to families. I mean, students who are supposed to be moving over to North Edgecombe next year from Phillips. They will remain at Phillips until I find it out. The whole high school is going to be over there.
I think they talked about that a little bit. They didn't go into great detail at the joint.
But I'm
board
telling you,
meeting.
parents don't know.
Yeah.
Students who just graduated 8th grade from there don't know that they're gonna stay there. So I don't think that's right. But anyway, and especially since we got to sign off on all those millions of dollars to help them get those other millions of dollars, we all ought to be in the same loop. I don't like hearing it outside and then got to ask somebody. And the other thing was,
Can you mind if I add just something while you're on that project? We've talked about the 5% match just to count as a requirement. We've been having conversations about borrowing that money. I think even maybe you, Mr. Thorne, had brought up, why don't we just not borrow the money? When we really laid it out and looked at the impact, we certainly could handle that debt service. But you just approved an amendment to the school capital reserve fund. And I can't remember the number, but there's a lot of money and it keeps growing. And plus, once the actual construction starts, it's going to take a year and a half, 2 years. So it's not like we would have to write $3.1 million check at once. We will be paying as every invoice comes in. The grant pays 95, we pay 5, as it does now with the architectural. So, and I've had this conversation with Dr. Bryan. I think it would be more appropriate for us to not borrow that, finance that. I think we can use that out of that school capital reserve. I think there'd still be money available to do capital projects, and they will also have access to that state lottery repair and renovation fund. So I think there'd be still funds available outside of that to do projects outside of North Edgecombe. So I discussed that with Dr. Bryan. I don't know if he's had discussion with this board, but would be my recommendation, the approach that we take from the county's perspective.
all right.
And do you think you need to wait till you get there? Or do you see that as your vision now?
I see that as the vision now. Yeah.
All right.
You can always come back in and load debt on if you need to. If there's a massive need to rebuild a school and we need to do it, we can. That's when you can do it.
But-
But if you have the cash in hand,
But
use the cash in hand.
let me make this observation. In terms of school capital projects, they will be done out of that fund. They're still gonna have to come ask us for money if it's not there.
Yes, sir.
So I guess the reason I asked that question, do we need to, I see what you're saying, do we need to deplete that fund and then the next 90 days, we still gotta come back and appropriate on the other side, okay? And that's why I'm saying,
There's like $16 million in there, isn't there?
it's 16,
No, not that much. Just
I don't want to be too overly technical, but this is not an agenda item. It's
Okay.
a special call meeting, we generally try
That's-
to limit to
well,
we're getting carried away.
we can understand your technical approach.
We meet 2 weeks.
All right.
Need to.
Based on the observations of our attorney, is there a motion to adjourn?
So I ain't asked my other question yet.
Well, go ahead.
You're not allowed to.
Well, it appears that those things we should not be discussing here. That's what I'm hearing.
Motion to adjourn.
Maybe you got something. It appears that based on what we call as a special meeting,
Yeah.
that is what we need to be. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Generally, our notice for the special meeting listed the items that were going to
Okay.
be discussed by the board, and we've traditionally tried to stick to that.
And
Well, you done added 12 that I didn't think we were gonna have. All I thought I was coming to do was to approve the
Yes,
budget.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Till I
They
got
were
this
in the
great
note.
big notebook and find out you got 1,500 things on there.
Well,
To adjourn.
and we got a second.